Once upon a time, before anything else existed, there was only darkness, an endless, quiet, empty space. But within this darkness, there was a spark of something extraordinary, a miraculous power that we've come to know as God. God looked at the vast expanse of nothingness and decided to fill it with life and light. With a single command, God said, "Let there be light," and just like that, light filled the emptiness, splitting the day from the night. Next, God crafted the sky, a beautiful blue blanket that covered the world. After that, He called forth the land and the seas. He painted the land green with plants and trees and filled the seas with all types of creatures. Then, God filled the sky with birds, the land with animals, and the waters with fish. Each creature, unique and special in its own way, added color and life to the world. But God wasn't done just yet. He wanted to create something even more special. So He fashioned humans in His own image. The first two, Adam and Eve, were placed in a paradise called the Garden of Eden. They lived in perfect harmony with nature, taking care of the earth and all its inhabitants. Yet in this perfect world, there was one rule. God told Adam and Eve not to eat from a certain tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But a cunning serpent tricked Eve into eating the fruit, and she shared it with Adam. It was the first act of disobedience, the first sin. Suddenly, the world was no longer the same. Adam and Eve were sent away from the Garden of Eden, and the balance was broken. But even in this sad moment, there was still a glimmer of hope. For God loved His creation, and He promised to find a way to restore the harmony that was lost. And so, from a world of perfect harmony, came the first act of disobedience. In a time when people forgot about being good, there was one man who stayed true. This man was Noah, a simple yet righteous man who walked with God. Unlike others in his time, Noah was different. He believed in kindness, in love, and in doing what was right. And because of his unwavering faith and good heart, God chose him for a very important task. God saw how the world was filled with wickedness and decided to cleanse it with a great flood. But He wanted to save Noah and his family, the only ones who still held goodness in their hearts. So God gave Noah detailed instructions to build a massive ark. This wasn't just any boat. It was a gigantic vessel, large enough to hold Noah's family and a pair of every animal species on Earth. Can you imagine the enormity of this task? Building an ark of such magnitude was no easy feat, especially since Noah was not a shipbuilder by trade. But Noah, being the obedient man he was, did not question God's command. He got to work, trusting God's plan. As Noah and his sons labored day and night, people laughed and ridiculed them. But Noah never wavered. He continued to build, and as he did, he preached about God's impending judgment, hoping to turn their hearts towards righteousness. Yet his words fell on deaf ears. After many years, the ark was finally complete. Now came the next task, to gather a pair of every animal species. Elephants, lions, birds, insects, you name it, they were there. It was a sight to behold, a menagerie of creatures, large and small, entering the ark in an orderly fashion, as if guided by an unseen hand. No sooner had the last animal entered, the heavens opened up, and it began to rain. It rained and rained for 40 days and 40 nights, until the entire earth was covered in water. But inside the ark, Noah, his family, and all the animals remained safe and dry. Finally, the rain stopped. Noah waited patiently until the water receded. He sent out a dove, which returned with an olive branch, signifying that dry land had appeared once more. With gratitude in their hearts, Noah and his family stepped out onto the freshly cleansed earth. And after the rain stopped, a beautiful rainbow appeared in the sky, symbolizing a promise never to flood the earth again. This rainbow was more than just a beautiful spectacle. It was God's promise to Noah, and to all of us, that He would never again send a flood to destroy the earth. The story of Noah and his ark is a timeless reminder of obedience, faith, and the promise of new beginnings. After the flood, people began to multiply, and they had a big idea. There was a time when everyone on earth spoke the same language, using the same words. They came together and decided to build a city with a tower that reached the sky. a tower so tall it would make them famous and keep them from being scattered all over the world. Their ambition was as high as the tower they aimed to construct. They wanted to reach the heavens, to touch the sky. But this was not just about building a tower, it was about human pride and arrogance, about trying to be equal with God. However, God saw what they were doing. He saw their city and the tower they were building. He understood their intentions and was not pleased. God knew that if they achieved this, nothing they planned to do would be beyond their reach. So, he decided to intervene. He went down and confused their language, making it so they couldn't understand each other. Imagine trying to pass bricks to your friend, but he doesn't understand what you're saying, or asking for a hammer, but no one knows what you need. That's exactly what happened. The construction of the tower came to a halt. People couldn't communicate, they couldn't understand each other, it was chaos. They had no choice but to stop building. They were frustrated, confused, and lost. The people had no option but to scatter. They went in different directions, spread out across the earth, taking their new languages with them. That's why the tower was called Babel, because it was there that God confused the people's language and scattered them across the world. The ambition to reach the heavens resulted in a world full of diverse languages and cultures. It taught us a lesson about pride and ambition, and the consequences of trying to be equal with God. And so, the people spread out, speaking different languages, all because of a tower that was too tall. In a far-off land, a man named Abraham received a very special message. Now, this wasn't just any ordinary message. No, this was a call from God himself. Abraham, a man of great faith, was living in the bustling city of Haran. He was surrounded by the life he had always known, family, friends, and familiar surroundings. But one day, God spoke to him, asking him to leave everything behind. Can you imagine leaving your home, your family, your life, all at the request of a voice you've never heard before? It would take immense trust, wouldn't it? But Abraham did not hesitate. This is where his faith really shines. He trusted in God's word, even though it meant leaving his home and venturing into the unknown. He packed up his belongings, gathered his wife Sarah and his nephew Lot, and they set off on a journey guided solely by their faith in God's promise. Now, this promise, it was not a small thing. God promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. That's right, many nations. This meant that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky or the grains of sand on a seashore. And not only that, but God promised to bless those who blessed Abraham and to curse those who cursed him. This was a significant promise, a covenant made by God to Abraham. Abraham, already 75 years old, could have doubted this promise. After all, he and Sarah were not young and they had no children. But Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. His faith did not waver, even in the face of seemingly impossible circumstances. The journey wasn't easy. They traveled through many lands, facing numerous challenges. But through it all, Abraham's faith remained steadfast. He built altars to God wherever he went, a symbol of his unwavering devotion. He trusted in God's promises even when they seemed distant and unattainable. This story of Abraham is a story of faith, of trust, and of obedience. It's a story about answering a call, even when that call leads to uncertainty and upheaval. It's about holding on to a promise, even when that promise seems impossible. Abraham's faith in God set the foundation for a lineage that would shape the course of history. His descendants, as numerous as the stars, would go on to include kings, prophets, and ultimately the Messiah. All because one man was willing to listen, to trust, and to obey. And so Abraham, with faith in his heart, set off on a journey to a land he didn't know. His story reminds us that sometimes faith requires us to step out into the unknown, to trust in promises yet unseen, and to believe in a plan that's bigger than ourselves. Abraham's calling, his journey, his faith, they are a testament to the power of trusting in God's promises, no matter how improbable they may seem. One sunny day, Abraham had some unusual guests. They weren't the usual sort of visitors you might expect. No, these were three strangers who seemed to appear out of nowhere, under the hot, shimmering sun. Abraham, being the kind and hospitable man that he was, didn't hesitate at all. He rushed from his tent to greet them, bowing low to the ground in respect. He invited them to rest under the shade of a nearby tree and insisted they wash their dusty feet. While they rested, Abraham hurried back to his tent and told his wife Sarah about their unexpected guests. Together, they prepared a feast. Sarah kneaded fine flour and baked fresh bread, while Abraham selected a tender, juicy calf from his herd. He had it cooked to perfection, serving it with milk and curds. As they ate, one of the visitors asked about Sarah. Abraham replied that she was in the tent. Then the visitor shared a surprising piece of news. He said that when he would return the following year, Sarah would have a son. Now Sarah was listening from the tent, and she couldn't help but laugh at this. She and Abraham were old, well past the age of having children. It seemed impossible, a wild dream, but the visitor was serious. He asked why Sarah laughed and doubted, reminding her that nothing is too hard for the Lord. Sarah was afraid and tried to deny that she had laughed. But the visitor knew the truth, and sure enough, despite their old age and the odds, Sarah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. They named him Isaac, which means he laughs, a fitting reminder of the surprising news they had received that sunny day. And so, even in their old age, Abraham and Sarah were blessed with a son, just as the visitors had promised. A seemingly impossible promise delivered by unexpected visitors became a joyous reality, proving that with faith and hospitality, extraordinary things can happen, even on the most ordinary of days. So, you see, these aren't just stories, they are lessons for us all. As we draw the curtains on our journey through time, let's take a moment to reflect on the remarkable tales we've shared. Each story, a pearl of wisdom, each character, a beacon of faith, and each event, a testament to the power of obedience and trust in divine guidance. In the beginning, there was nothing but a void until the Creator breathed life into the universe. This tale of creation is not just about the birth of the universe, but also the birth of obedience. Adam and Eve's story reminds us of the importance of obeying divine commandments, of the consequences of straying from the path laid out for us. The story of Noah and his ark, a tale of unwavering faith in the face of ridicule and doubt. Noah's obedience to God, even when others did not believe, resulted in his survival and the renewal of life on earth. His story teaches us to hold fast to our beliefs no matter the odds. Then we have the Tower of Babel, a tale of ambition and pride. It serves as a reminder that while the pursuit of knowledge is noble, it must not lead to arrogance or defiance of divine will. Our journey then took us to Abraham, a man who left everything behind to answer God's call. His story is a testament to the power of faith and the rewards of obedience. His trust in God's promise, even when it seemed impossible, led to the birth of nations. Finally, we met Abraham's unexpected visitors, who brought news of a miracle. This story shows us that sometimes blessings come in the most unexpected ways, and that God's promises are always fulfilled, even if we can't see how at the moment. Remember, every story holds a lesson. So, what can you learn from these stories today?